I hope everybody had a good weekend. You might have noticed last night headlines about a trade deal with China. The only problem is there is currently no deal. And even Fox News is acknowledging this. This is a really interesting story. I want to take some time.
On CNN tonight, Anderson Cooper delves into the chaotic world of trade negotiations as Donald Trump makes headlines for supposedly pausing his trade war with China. But is it really a victory or just a smokescreen? Let's break this down together.
To dig into it at the start of the show. So Donald Trump is now temporarily undoing some of his own economic disaster, and he wants applause for it. It's the arsonist who says, I put out a little bit of the fire that I started, and you should be cheering for me.
This quote perfectly encapsulates the absurdity of Trump's approach. He's taking credit for mitigating a crisis he himself ignited, showcasing a dangerous pattern of accountability avoidance that reflects broader systemic issues in leadership.
So let's discuss what took place. Over the weekend, the U.S. and China announced a 90-day pause on the trade war. This is not a deal. This is a delay on the Trump-created trade war, and have agreed during this period of time to slash tariffs by a massive 115 combined points. The U.S. dropping duties on Chinese goods from up to 145% down to 30%. China's retaliatory tariffs are falling from 125% to 10%. Markets exploded on the news as of this moment, as I'm recording this segment. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up about 1,000 points. And we knew this would happen because as soon as this announcement hit, the futures overnight popped. Investors don't care who gets the credit. They want the madness to stop. And the idea that maybe we're getting closer to an off-ramp here is exciting to those who are not shorting the market. And I'll be honest, no matter what the reason is, as someone personally who is long the market, meaning I own shares of mutual funds, long rather than short, meaning my bet is that over time they will go up. I like logging into my mutual fund account and seeing more money rather than less money compared to the previous day. But what we need not to forget is that this entire thing was a disaster of Donald Trump's own making. There was never a coherent strategy with these tariffs. And this is importantly not a deal. You will hear Fox News in a moment kind of hemming and hawing, calling it a deal. But then on a hot mic, a reporter is like, should we be calling this a deal? Because it's not really a deal. Now, if we go back to the original justification, it was we must protect American workers. We need to pressure China to make structural economic changes and end the theft of intellectual property, open their markets, and this sort of thing. That never happened. What happened was tariffs that would immediately cause higher prices for American consumers.
This moment exposes the harmful ripple effects of Trump's tariffs on everyday Americans. It's a stark reminder that decisions made in the name of America first often backfire, hurting the very citizens they claim to protect.
Retaliatory tariffs that would be bad for American businesses, including manufacturers and farmers, and just a generalized global supply chain chaos. Trump essentially taxing American businesses and shoppers in the name of being tough, and then being shocked and offended when China says, well, if you're doing that, we will do the exact same thing. Economists across the political spectrum called it a bad idea because tariffs are import taxes, and the Trump administration claimed to be against taxes. This was a sort of giant self-imposed tax hike layered on this empty tough guy rhetoric that mostly hurt the very people Trump claimed to be protecting. Now what Trump wants is for us to cheer because he's temporarily and partially pausing. This is the political version of lighting your kitchen on fire and then demanding a medal for grabbing a fire extinguisher. Trump spent years talking about and hiking tariffs. We saw during the first term how much of a disaster it was for farmers. He bragged about how easy it is to win trade wars. And now he's quietly admitting it's not so easy. The pressure has gotten to Trump of the disastrous and unstable stock market performance. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, of course, says this is a major breakthrough. He says the pause could be extended if things go well. And that's all great, assuming it doesn't get torpedoed on Truth Central tomorrow. We were also told there might be a Trump-Xi phone call coming in the coming weeks, assuming the name calling doesn't start and Trump blows the whole thing up. So the stock market is up, and it's worth reminding people what that means. The stock market is a futures market. It trades on expectations. When Trump imposed tariffs on April 2nd, the Great Liberation Day, what we saw was stocks decline because of expectations about what that meant. And now that the tariff fiasco is paused with China, stocks are up again because of the expectation of what that might mean. It's not a completed deal. It's investors reacting to the possibility of fewer insane tariff swings and impulsive trade policy decisions. It's sort of relief. It's not celebration. Now, I want to be fair that this is good news. If the cuts happen and they become permanent, that's good. And I will say that's the right thing to do. But of course, it will be Trump going back to the right thing from an unforced, self-imposed disaster. Businesses that rely on imports, electronics, cars, machinery, they might see relief from what Trump did. And that's the really important thing to think about as we couch this and understand this. What we might get back to is Trump undoing a problem of his own making. Trump wants us to see this pause as, look, there was a problem that had nothing to do with Trump, and Trump came in and fixed the problem. But what this is Trump putting a temporary Band-Aid, which will eventually fall off if a more permanent cure isn't found.
This powerful insight reveals the temporary nature of Trump's solutions. Instead of creating lasting change, he's merely applying short-term fixes to long-term issues, leaving the American economy vulnerable in the process.
Trump putting a temporary Band-Aid on a problem he created. They didn't force better trade terms. They didn't bring manufacturing roaring back. They are temporarily pausing the problem that they created. Some of the worst tariffs, steel, electric vehicles, those are still in place. And Besant says that this is all strategic. Those aren't going to change. It's not a full reset. It's a partial rollback or a temporary pause. It's a timeout, for lack of a better term. So Wall Street breathing a sigh of relief. Maybe this means Trump is moving in the direction of fewer impulsive trade decisions, at least for a few weeks. So here we go again. But even Fox News is sort of sniffing around, and they're realizing we really can't call this a trade deal. Let's talk about that next.
In the grand scheme, Trump's trade war with China reveals the fragility of our economic landscape and the dire need for coherent policy. As he attempts to rewrite history, we must remain vigilant and demand accountability. What do you think? Should we be thanking him or holding him responsible? Let us know in the comments.